We are live.
Good. This is Senate Finance. This is April 11th. And today we're going to continue. We did the walkthrough of 657. I think we probably still kind of sorted out. But we're going to start taking testimony. And okay. So we've got first Jeremy Crandall. You're gonna go first? Okay. So Scott Mackey, come on up and we'll let you.
Thank you, Senator Cummings, committee members. For the record, Scott Mackey with the United Public Affairs. I'm here on behalf of AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and US Cellular. For the four facility-based wireless carriers that do business in Vermont to talk about some issues we have with 657. I'm going to focus on the universal service section and the property tax changes, and then Jeremy's going to talk about the right of way issues on behalf of CTIA and the Wireless Trade Association. So as you know, this bill would change the USF from being imposed as a percentage to a flat rate, and I think you've heard testimony on that over the years. And the wireless industry is neutral. We're not particularly happy about it, but we're not opposing what you're trying to do here. We just wanted to point out a couple of implications from doing that. First of all, it's going to shift a significant portion of the total funding for USF from businesses to individuals. Businesses tend to spend more on landline service. Individuals have more individual lines. And so as you shift from a percentage of what you pay for your service to a per line, more of the overall USF funding is going to come from individual wireless users. And then the second thing it's going to do is it's going to have a sort of a disparate impact on wireless because of the fact that, as we all know, frequently families and even individuals have multiple lines on the same bill. So if you've got a couple of kids, you've got 4 or 5 lines on your bill. Right now, the way the wireless companies price their services, generally they charge more for the first line, and then each subsequent line after that, you get a little lower price. And so if you go to a per line charge, you're going to see more of the burden fall on those family share plans. And because it's a regressive tax, more of the burden is going to fall on the low and moderate income part of the spectrum. Now, the bill that came over from the House did keep the tax on prepaid wireless, which tends to be the segment that the people that don't have good credit and maybe can't pay for a month at a time or have to, top up the minutes every week by. So by leaving that at a percentage, at least that very low income segment is not going to be impacted and charged. I just thought it would be good for the committee to know what the kind of the distributional impacts of that particular change on the USF would be. If there aren't any questions on that, I'd like to spend a little more time on the telephone property tax.
Okay, I'm not seeing no questions.
Okay. So the telephone property tax provisions of the bill are a fairly significant shift from current practice. And to understand why wireless companies have concerns, I just want to spend a very brief minute talking about kind of how things work today. So if you're a landline phone company, you pay the telephone property tax, which is a state tax. And so you pay everything to the state on your property. And that includes your real estate, the poles and wires, everything. And that's at a depreciated rate. And so as the tax department and others have pointed out, is that there hasn't been as much investment in those networks as there has been in past years. And so a lot of that property is depreciating out, which is why the tax has not been generating that much revenue. For wireless companies, there's some misunderstanding out there. We do pay the property tax today. So on our real estate, we own property, and real estate is generally defined as the land and any structures permanently affixed, if you will, to the land. So if there's a wireless company that owns a wireless tower that's affixed to the land and the land under it, we do pay real estate property taxes on that today, goes to the education fund and the municipalities. So if you think about the types of property wireless has, it's the land in the tower if they own it. Now, some of them lease the tower and then the owner of the tower would pay the tax. And then the buildings, generally the wireless companies will have a base station at the bottom of the tower. On the tower will be the antennas, and then the base station will be a building that has all the electronic components and guts. So the building itself is currently taxed, but the stuff inside the building, the computer equipment, all that stuff would not be taxed as real estate today. And the antennas that are mounted on the towers are not taxed as real estate today. And the wire that connects that cell site to the internet backbone to the network is not taxed as real estate today. However, Vermont does have a business personal property tax, and municipalities are given the option whether or not they want to levy that tax. And 40 something of the 250 something, about a fifth of the municipalities of Vermont have elected to tax business personal property. And so in those communities like Montpelier and Burlington and others, the computer equipment inside those sheds, the antennas on the towers, and the wire connecting to the network is business personal property that is being taxed by municipalities today. And so currently we are treated the same as all other competitive businesses. If Montpelier wants to tax business property for everyone, then we pay. If Waterbury, where I live, elects to exempt it, then we're exempt like everyone else. So there's a misconception that we're not paying. We are today. What this bill would do is basically deem all of our personal property to be real estate. And when you do that, then we basically have to pay all the taxes that are imposed on real estate, whether it's owned by a business or by residential property owner. And so that's why I think the wireless company does not, there's a lot of states where we pay business personal property tax, and we don't object to that because we're treated the same as every other business. I think what this bill would do is say, we're gonna pull you out and treat you separately, and we're gonna basically, by law, say that your business personal property is actually real estate that would then be taxed. And so it's not so much that we have to pay the tax, it's the disparate discriminatory treatment that would be imposed by this bill is why we don't support it. If you look at what's been happening nationally, over the years, states have been moving in the other direction. Wisconsin Wisconsin just repealed the tax on business personal property for telephone companies. They had already repealed the tax for other businesses, but they just this year passed a bill to provide the same treatment. It won't take effect for a few years, but it's on the books. And Iowa, a couple of years ago, did that too. They had been basically doing what Vermont's proposing to do, which is deeming telecom property to be real estate and taxing it, even though they exempted all of their business property. They've repealed that. So that really leaves only two states, New Jersey and Delaware, that still do impose sort of this disparate treatment, and it's only for wireline companies in those two states. So that's why we have concerns about what's being proposed in this bill. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions, committee, Senator Chip?
You said 40 to 256 towns currently use the business personal property tax. If this goes into effect, would that no longer happen?
Yes, that's correct. So in this bill, basically it puts in a new exemption from the business personal property tax for property that is now being subject to tax as real estate. So there would not be a double taxation, but
the towns would lose some money.
Well, that's a question for the tax department, because it's possible they'll pick it back up when it goes on the grand list as real estate. They'll pick I think they'll pick it back up. That might be a question for Montpelier.
Yeah.
Because I know they're one of the cities that does currently tax business personal property today, who is getting money from wireless property.
Okay. All right, any questions? I'm not seeing. You have Jeremy Crandall is next.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy, welcome to the Senate Finance. We just need you to introduce yourself and who you represent for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Sounds good. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Great. Chair Cummings, Vice Chair McDonald, members of the committee. My name is Jeremy Crandall. I am testifying today on behalf of CTIA, the trade association for the wireless industry, in opposition to the House Bill 657 before you. As I have said to this committee, I think once before, and others in the Vermont legislature, as a father of a young child here in Washington, D.C., I do especially appreciate the opportunity to present remotely to you all. Would obviously welcome coming up there as well, but I do appreciate that. Mr. Mackey touched on our industry's opposition to the tax component that you all just talked about. My testimony today, and what I very much want to encourage this committee to take a closer look at before taking any action, is the provision in the bill that requires our members to provide, quote, a detailed inventory of all property in the state right of way. This is section 13E and related provisions of the bill in front of you, 657. Let me first emphasize that our members recognize the important role that state government plays in managing state-owned rights of way in Vermont, and the need to collect the necessary information to do and undertake that management. However, we do feel that the work that is being prescribed and undertaken here in the bill is redundant with already existing processes required under state law. And then the manner in which this data collection is ultimately conducted could be done in a more effective and efficient manner. First, it is our understanding that current state law already designates the Secretary of Administration as the exclusive licensing and leasing agent for wireless facilities on state property. And we would believe that that includes state roads. And that's under section 227B of Vermont law. And so as such, the Secretary of Administration should already have all the leasing and licensing information necessary for the kind of information collection that's required under this bill. Specifically for any small cell sites that are authorized under the state's 248A siting process, the Department of Public Service and the Public Utilities Commission should have that information as well. Beyond who is actually collecting or has already collected this information, we do also have concerns about how the work would actually be done. The bill requires, quote, that all other communications property shall be subject to a fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory fee schedule established by the Transportation Secretary. And so I want to pause for a sec and remind and just consider for you all what is defined under that, quote, communications property. And that's on page 10 of the bill. And this includes wires, cables, conduit, pipes, antennas, poles, wireless towers, machinery, distribution hubs, splitters, switching equipment, routers, servers, power equipment, and any other network equipment. That's quite a long list. It's quite a lot of infrastructure. And so now our members advise that some of these components may not even be located within any one portion of the right-of-way. It's also complicated as to whether it would be defined as a wireless or a wired component as well. And so just generally, given the complicated nature of our infrastructure and the extensive knowledge that the Department of Public Service, as well as the Agency of Administration, already has with communications infrastructure, we do question whether VTrans, the transportation agency, is best suited to do this work. And so, and then finally, we do appreciate, and this was discussed on the House side as well, a recognition of the importance of the confidentiality of this type of data, and what this bill tries to do. But again, that type of work, even that confidentiality protection, that work is already being done by the Department of Public Service. And so we would just again say, why not use use or otherwise rely on processes that already exist. We do have language recommendations as to how this information could be better protected by the State Public Records Act. I know that that's a part of this bill. We do have some suggestions as well there. But in closing, let me just again reiterate, we do recognize the important role of state government in managing state-owned rights of way and the need to collect information to do that work. But we do recommend rethinking and reworking how this would be conducted. And so that's why we oppose this provision specifically as currently drafted. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you have suggestions, please email them to Zane and, we can work on those as we work our way through. Okay?
Will do.
Committee, any questions? Okay, if not, we're gonna move on.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next, we have a walk through the transportation bill. Logan's here. And there I pulled two small sections that contain fees.
Correct.
So, if we can do a 2,000 short
Either.
walk on the bill, and then we'll look at the fees. And we'll see where we go.
There is, so for the record, Logan River, Joint Fiscal Office, I have a fiscal note here, if people are interested, that's this.
That's our field. We can take pictures.
Okay.
Okay,
So, just as a little background, I'm sure everyone knows this already, but there's the annual transportation bill. It adopts the white book, makes some other changes to law. And in this proposed year, there are two sections that have an impact on revenue and that are germane to this committee, those being section 10 and section 27. So we'll start with section 10 first. This one's relatively minor. This proposal would just grant the agency or the Secretary of the Agency of Transportation the authority to waive an application fee for a right-of-way access permit for minor commercial developments in the case that the governor has declared a state of emergency. And that applicant is facing a hardship. So this was essentially a very limited proposal to grant the secretary this authority in this very specific instance for this very specific application, essentially.
something happened during COVID.
Correct. Yeah. So in COVID, a lot of restaurants, as you probably know, had to move outside, do outdoor dining. This, in a similar case, would give the secretary the ability to waive that application fee.
Also, they were moving in out onto the sidewalk.
Something like that into a right of way that they would normally need this permit. Now, the secretary would be able to waive that.
Okay.
So-
Okay, if we
Yeah,
have
and-
another state of emergency,
right, and so given the sort of the subjectivity and that the secretary has his discretion and that it has to be in a state of emergency. We can't really say what the fiscal impact is, only that it will likely be relatively small or de minimis if there is one. And then on to section 27, this is the larger of the two here. This is a proposal to enact an annual road usage surcharge for pleasure car registrations on battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. So this surcharge will be levied in addition to the standard pleasure car registration fee. And it would differ based on whether the car is a battery electric or a plug-in hybrid electric. If it is a battery electric vehicle, they'll be charged the same as the 1-year registration fee, which is $89 surcharge. And then in the case of 2 years, because we can do 2-year registrations on pleasure cars, they'd be charged double the 1-year fee, so $178. If it's a plug-in, they're gonna be charged half of a registration fee, so $44.50. 2 years, they're gonna be charged the full $89. These will be paid at the time of registration. And this surcharge will go into effect on passage, and it will be implemented as early as October of 2024, but no later than January 1st of 2025.
okay. This is to replace the gas tax that they are not paying if they're all battery operated, or not paying as much if you're a hybrid. And you do drive on the roads.
Correct, yes, this will offset some of the missed revenue that the state would have got from gas or from gas consumption.
We just added two things, and I think Logan circled this, but important to note in the languages, two things that I want to highlight. This is the transitional charge that is set to expire or be repealed as soon as mileage-based usage fees come into effect for battery electric vehicles. So that is part of the language. It's kind of roundabout. You'll see section 29 comes into effect, the effective dates to repeal this charge as soon as we start implementing any mileage-based usage fee, which is the intent, but that's 2 to 3 to 6 years out. And so this is an interim solution. The other thing I want to highlight is that this commits the money, all the collected revenues from this to electric charging stations. So in a way, this is to help support and commit these dollars to build out our electric infrastructure, and that's in the language as well.
Just reading that the electric car sales are down, and mostly it's because of insecurity that you'll be able to charge it wherever you are when charge is down. So,
And then I'll just mention that if this goes into effect in October, we estimate it'll be around $912,000 in additional revenue to the T fund for fiscal year 25, and then 1.7 billion in fiscal year 26. And then going forward, depending on when the MBUF comes into play and stuff like that, we don't quite know yet. So
okay. Committee, any questions on the fees? Waiver. Would you like to get a 2,000 view section by section what's in the rest of the bill? I need a response.
I don't need it.
Well, no, you.
I will say, if you want to go through the entire bill, we might want to have like counsel, Jen Harvey, come in and she's the lawyer about that. I can kind of give you some if there are specific questions.
Jen is tied up.
Yeah, so
She is taking up, so,
if there are questions, I can try to answer those, but
no, I think, yeah,
I heard it comes with a bumper sticker, it says no longer a freeloader, is that true?
we'll get you one.
Put on the receipts.
Okay. Okay. Committee, if there are no other questions, I will put this on for vote out tomorrow. I'd like to leave 24 hours for us to do that. Is that right?
There are dollars already in the T-bill, right, for EV charge instruction. Is that true, or is it all ARPA money?
so those were, if the House had proposed to add some money, in the Senate's recommended proposal, Senate Transportation proposal, they have taken that out. And so, in replace this surcharge on the EVs, all of that revenue will go towards EV charging stations.
And the EV proposal from the House with how much compared to the,
I believe they had $1.7 million going to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development for an EV program that they run there. And then this would be roughly $900,000.
and are there other dollars coming in another way, not necessarily T-bill that you're aware of? To support EV charging structure, I know we had like ARPA dollars coming in, so it's sort of different special funds for the state. I don't know if we're.
There might be, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know there are some other agencies that might be working on similar things, but I don't have the numbers with me right now.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if you'd like, I may weigh in. I'm Michelle Boonhauer from the Agency of Transportation. So we do have the federal National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program monies that are coming in over the period of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act program. So we're making those investments. And then the Agency of Natural Resources recently applied for the Carbon Reduction Program grant. And there's a large chunk of money in there that would also continue to help with the multifamily housing, EV, as well as highway infrastructure.
I thought, and was hopeful, there were other dollars beyond just this, we won't get it too far too fast. So,
No. Like internet. Senator,
I know the Natural Resources and Energy Committee is already heavily working right now. And I'll obviously fees are in finance committee's jurisdiction. But the whole relationship of fees and not fees for electric vehicles is also about an incentive to use electric vehicles.
Yeah.
It's about
And there-
global warming and something. Should the natural resources, actually, at least take a look at this bill?
Ken, this has been in the works for several years. We've done a study, we've applied. I think they finally reached the point where they're gonna kick it off. There's a trigger in here, right? There's a space, and what's the trigger?
So this is setting it to no later than this coming January. I think a notion has been raised to amend this language to have a trigger when we reach the 15% threshold of new car sales. That is not in this bill.
Okay,
Which I've heard that number many times, or 15, I thought it was 15% or.
Yeah, that's what I'm on.
But it was, I don't, yeah, I've never quite heard an explanation of why we should delay to that threshold.
I think it comes back to the global climate action plan, which uses the innovation curve, the adoption of the Everett's, we're at 15% is at a threshold where you're hopefully no longer scaring away the potential users of the solution or technology. But I will say, I think Michelle might be able to attest to this, the thinking in transportation was what we were seeing. We are on track to hit 15% this October. So all signs point to this being the right time to do this.
I think when we started this, our EVs were at about $51,000. We didn't want to put any more on that. They're now up or down. There's things available at the price that gas fuel cars are selling at, and so we seem to be seeing a take up. The issue seems to be the lack of charging, especially in our more rural areas.
Just this morning, Senator Birchwood, Senator Ingles and I were at the Tesla dealership grand opening up in South Burlington. So that was really exciting. We saw the new Beast Tesla truck. That was quite good. A photo of Senator Ingles riding.
They are also heavier on our road. Okay,
Or Teslas. Co-op, parking lot. Yeah. That's okay.
okay, so Tesla is here,
They weren't
but not in person, just showing you, teasing, see a lot of people buy it. So I will put this on for vote for all of us, if there's any concerns, if you need to hear any other information, let me know. Okay,
But I think that, on this point of the kind of natural resources, energy. So one good thing is we have a forum. So
that's true.
we get a running start at, and it's.
I can put the vote off a couple
No,
days.
I'm not encouraging that.
I thought you had a lot to do.
We had a less than perfect connection with transportation. We keep looking at it as it's energy use with emissions resulting. And it's a natural resource if you would. Transportation has traditionally not been
They raised the gas
that
tax.
oriented to that
to this.
piece of the industry. We're getting better every year.
Next time they raise the gas tax, I'm gonna make sure this is.
On that, I say, if I'm back here next year and we look at the anemic transportation fund, I've already said, I think we're gonna need to raise the gas tax next year to pay for the roads. There's an argument that as people use less gas, the prices will go down.
Since gas just went up about 5 cents ago. But we're gonna have funding source.
Speaking
Okay.
of fossil fuels and fees and money. Remember we had S5 last year, we looked at what might happen with fossil fuel, heating fuel.
Yes,
If we move forward, who knows what we're gonna do, we'll see again plan next year, the next legislature will decide what to do, but. There was on the information front, Penny did a report, contracting for a report being done on modeling, greenhouse gases and thermal. Yeah, they came back with estimating penny per gallon of heating fuel. Year one, a penny in year two, penny in year three, 3 cents, year 4 to 5 cents, year 5. So it was going up, but we had heard, like this committee heard, we've heard 71 cents a gallon. And turns out when DNR got a report on this, happily far less. So, not a full-fledged program, but we had whatever, worried on behalf of fellow Vermonters from here last year, right? So now that we had some data back up,
Right.
and we're talking about fuel and fees, I thought,
We all know
Put it on
what
the
can
table.
happen to the price of fossil fuel. We don't control it, we control what we tax, but it can go up 20 cents or drop 50, depending on what somebody in Arabia is thinking, so. We don't control it, but we can control the tax. Okay. Committee, I don't think we've got questions, so thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, we don't have anyone scheduled until 2:45. We thought the transportation bill might take longer. I will let you know that we have some heavy bills coming up. We have this on the universal service fee is basically what it is, bill altering that. There will be next Tuesday, I think we're planning to vote a major education bill coming our way. Education funding, a very new formula, I think, is going to be proposed. And there will be some taxes. Right. There will be taxes, there will be new ed funding formula, and it's gonna take us a while to work our way through it. They're still working their way through it. So we'll see where that goes. I believe that is coming on the yield bill, which also has the cloud tax. So when that comes, we'll get into that. We'll look at the yield. I know you're doing something with the CLA. So, be prepared. And I don't know that the world of schools knows about these proposed changes. So I anticipate once it's on the House floor, they will know and they will contact us. So, I would like us to be able to go through the bill before that happens, but I may not be able to. Yes, second.
Scheduling hearings for us to go to around the state.
Not
Will they
yet,
get that, though?
not yet. Those of us that remember Act 60 do remember doing that.
We were presented, to answer questions.
I didn't even do it, and I went out and answered questions, so I think in every town hall in Washington County. And this may be it, but we do have a crisis. We've got budgets that have gone down twice.
We know that, I'm sure.
I know.
We're trying to get answers from the board members, the superintendents yesterday about what they saw going on in their schools. It was an interesting discussion yesterday where they said they were having trouble getting teachers. And they were senators that say, well, the performance of students is down.
Yeah.
And they were telling us, yeah, it's down, we're hiring people that aren't qualified. Because-
I'm completely,
No, they're hiring people who are not qualified
right,
to be teachers, and they're getting provisional
right,
contracts because there's no one else to hire, and we're shocked that scores are going down. It's kind of an interesting
well, we have
discussion.
a teacher shortage, that principal, superintendent that said that yesterday. I was at a public forum with him. They had a husband and wife team, they both agreed to work at his school. They came here, they said it yesterday.
Yeah.
They couldn't find housing that was affordable, and they had to turn down the job.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we can create enough teachers in-house to solve that problem, so. we've got to.
I don't know if the house bill's gonna solve our problem either.
Okay. No, I don't either, but it's going to be a major, probably more major than that would be. It's going to be a major discussion. Okay, I'm gonna give you a break until 20 off. We've got the tax commissioner coming to talk about. We've got it listed as 546, which is miscellaneous tax bill. But I really want him to talk about the whole utilities valuation and if there's a conflict between 657 and 546, I want to be sure that we get one coherent value up here. And I think we will ask, actually, I think it was Representative Sims, was she one of the sponsors, lead sponsor who volunteered to come in and talk to us. But this is a strike all, so I don't know how closely this resembles her bill, but we could ask her to come in and talk to us about what they were thinking with taking computers at what is usually business property and turning it into real estate and putting it into a property tax. Why they thought that was relevant. And I think we're gonna need, I don't know if it's Julia or somebody else. Well, just to help us keep track of the money involved in each one of these sections. How much we're raising, how much we're giving up.
For 657, Madam Chair,
Yes,
so that is all in the fiscal note, and Ted is your
that
main
is
point of
our.
contact on that.
Well, that's 680. I know I've got it. I've got that 580 or somewhere. Okay. Anything else the committee wants to hear from? On any of these bills? Anything that's going? Okay. So you've got about a 20-minute break.
For that last testimony, I'm definitely interested to explore the notion of not having the Agency of Transportation manage this, but the PUC. That seems to make sense to me, so I don't know if we're gonna hear from the PUC.
We will hear from that.
Then I might have missed like the exact context for what we are discussing, but if it's anything that's moving. I have talked with Senator Lyons about the tobacco tax.
The tobacco tax.
Yes.
Okay.
And looking at a vehicle that would originate in economic development, so that is three of us would be able to make some first pass decisions then, but I don't know if you wanna start,
Raise the tobacco tax.
raise the flavored tobacco.
Okay, that's already at 92% wholesale, as well as taxing it, so if you raise it anything, it will be doubling the cost. It is something we could do. I'm being asked not to raise more than we need, but we may need that, they're still working out how much we need. So, yeah, that,
And just while we're talking about our universe,
yes,
just
yeah,
to say,
one tax.
right,
We've never been yelled at for raising.
not as much spam.
We haven't looked at cigarette tax in a long time. So, yeah, those are all tools we can bring out if we need to. I personally have a problem with making money off of people's addictions, that's very fair.
Well,
So I put in a bill to do that once, in 2009, it didn't go well.
Because we don't know where it is to tax. All right,
One thing on cigarette side, I saw that they do this in Europe, but the European Commission has a database of 42 pictures of lungs,
Oh,
of
yes.
all the corrosive outcomes. We could tax them unless they brand all of their packaging with all of these.
Could have it
dire-
put on the date.
Okay, so if they put on the packaging
Yeah.
negative health outcomes of smoking, we could avoid an additional.
Yeah, well, I thought we had done that at one point. I know it was for the cigarettes. I know it was talked about.
Or we require that little box or something printed, you know, to vet their health.
Yes.
I think the warning.
Can we say that, like, you're getting taxed unless you do this other thing you aren't gonna do?
Tax every brand pack of cigarettes.
Yes.
Well, they'd have to change all their packaging. That.
The slippery slope. Those are two separate things.
Okay. Here we go. Good.